Next, real quick, we've just got Justin Hager with Montana Specialty Mills. He's going to kind of talk about, obviously canola is a growing crop. They also do a lot with other oil seeds. He's going to kind of talk about the different programs that they have right now. If anybody's interested in growing some spring canola or whatever other products he may have. So he's just going to kind of just give a quick overview of the market and things like that. And then after that, we'll jump to Neil, and Neil's going to kind of talk about his products. So, Justin.
No worries. I guess while he's getting that set up, thank you, Cody, for the invitation. Kind of blowing in and blowing back out so I can get back home before my kid leaves and heads back to MSU Bozeman. See a few hats out there, so I'm going to say go Cats. And with that, I guess a little bit about myself. I kind of one of the few people within the company. I work for both Montana Specialty Mills and Columbia Grain. I run the mustard program for Columbia Grain, but I also work on procurement of non-GMO canola and flax for the crush plant at Montana Specialty Mills in Great Falls. So with that, I'll just kind of touch on the programs, a little bit our yellow mustard program for this year, flax, non-GMO canola. And then this last fall, we kind of started, I'd call it a pilot program on our winter non-GMO canola. We put out about 7,500 acres or so, and hoping as we get into this fall, Mother Nature, conditions, everything helping out, hopefully we can kind of double our non-GMO canola winters going into this next year. So with that, for this year, what we've got going on is I got 2 delivery locations. Our primary location is our mustard plant in Conrad. We're sitting at 28 cents a pound delivered into Conrad. I've got a few acres left yet for harvest delivery into Guilford, sitting at 26 cents a pound there delivered into Guilford. That price is based on #1 yellow mustard, first 500 pounds an acre. Whatever that first 500 pounds is covered by Act of God. For the Conrad delivery, you're looking at a buyer's call over the course of the crop year. Obviously, the Guilford delivery is a harvest delivery. That is based on it being a #1, so we're not, if there's any quality issues, whatever, we're not contaminating what we've got in the bin there. We've got planting seed available. It's a common untreated 1 year off of certified Andante, available in 50-pound bags, and a variety of totes usually range from about 1,500 to 2,000 pounds a tote, and that's priced at $1.25 a pound picked up Conrad. What we're seeing in the market right now is pretty healthy carryover in mustard up in Canada. Down in the US, there really isn't a huge carryover year to year. It's like 4,000 ton or something like that, not very much. But Canada's got a pretty healthy carryover, what they're projecting about 109, 110,000 metric ton carried over from 25 into 26. Early projections are showing that increase in mustard acres in Canada this year is probably going to increase from 376,000 that was seeded in 25 up to 450, 460,000 going into 26 up in Canada. US, there was about 138,000 acres seeded in 25. Early projections are showing probably closer to 156 going into 26. They don't break that down by state anymore, but I would say historically the US is probably a little closer to 90 to 100,000. So if we see 150,000, 160,000 going in the US, of which probably 85, 90% of those are in Montana, we're still sitting probably a little bit higher than what we historically see. Canada usually in that 350 to 400 range, so if they're 450 to 476, still looking a little bit higher than normal. So that probably won't really help what we're seeing on the carryout working its way down. But I would say things are probably going to trend mostly sideways. A lot's going to depend on weather, growing conditions, what we see for total acres seeded, total production come harvest. So I'd kind of predict that the market will remain fairly flat. In any kind of weather event, whether we stay dry or we get rain and things go well, will probably push the market one way or another. Flax, we're sitting 10.50 a bushel delivered into our crush plant in Great Falls. That's on the first 10 bushel an acre, Act of God. That is a buyer's call delivery over the course of the crop year as well. We, just like the mustard, we have last right of refusal on any overage over and above what you lock in. We don't carry any planting seed. I mean, I know Montana Specialty Mills doesn't. I don't know that Columbia does. They might be trying to find something, but I haven't heard anything right now. So if you're looking to put flax in or want to do a contract, you'd have to source your own planting seed. But flax, you know, right now I think same kind of thing. They're pretty healthy carryover of flax in Canada. Most buyers are mostly covered from what I'm seeing. You see a few little pockets, windows here and there where there might be a little spike. Someone's looking to buy in, get some coverage, and then as soon as they are, we see the market kind of soften back down. Last year, Canada, I think, put in around 500,000 acres of flax. This year, they're projecting around 600,000. Montana was right around 58. They're predicting 76,000 for this year. North Dakota more than doubled their acres last year from 92 and 24 up to 190,000 last year. I haven't really seen much for any new crop projections on flax acres, but I would assume they might be fairly flat, possibly a little higher going into this year. So same kind of thing on flax. I kind of think that we're just going to see things trend sideways. There appears to be more than enough supply out there where I would say historically in years past, we tend to see the flax market rally as we get into spring. Stocks get tight, buyers get crazy, they can't find it. Prices go up, $1, $2, $3 a bushel. But with the carryover we're seeing, especially in North Dakota and in Canada this year, I'm not really feeling we're going to see what we've seen the last 3 to 5 years in the flax market. So I think same kind of thing as mustard, probably going to be fairly flat, going to be dependent on weather and total production, and that'll push it one way or another. Spring non-GMO canola programs, I got a little bit more to go over here. So Columbia Grain is a majority owner of the Montana Specialty Mills joint venture crush plant in Great Falls. So with that program, we run our contracts through Columbia Grain. So if you decide that you want to contract it, the settlements would be done through your local Columbia Grain elevator, and you can get all the information, settlement checks from there. So it's kind of a joint effort between Columbia Grain working with their elevator managers, getting information out, the merchants out in Portland, myself. So kind of all jumbled, commingled, and a joint effort between everyone. We got 2 delivery periods right now. We did have a December. We filled that one. We've got a Jan, Feb, March of 27 delivery. We're sitting about 11.75 a bushel right now, as well as an April, May, June of 27 at 11.90 a bushel. Both those are delivered into the crush plant in Great Falls. Prices based on a number 1 non-GMO canola. You must meet the non-GMO threshold, which is a max 0.9% GMO in your non-GMO production. That price is based on the first 20 bushel an acre dry land. You can do 45, 50 on dry land if there's, irrigated. If there's any irrigated growers in here, that contract does carry an act of God like our other contracts do. Columbia Grain, Montana Specialty Mills would have last right of refusal on purchasing the overage. For those AOG contracts, we do require that you purchase the spring canola seed from us, which is a Photosyntech NCC 101S. There are some other spring non-GMO varieties out there, so if there's something you've got in mind, you heard about, that you're interested in doing, you can talk to us about it. We'll see if that's something that we've had good experience or good historical luck with when it comes to the GMO threshold on it and maintaining that non-GMO status. The price on the Photosyntech is about $385 per 35-pound bag, so that works out to about $11 a pound, and at a 5-pound seeding rate, about $55 an acre. There are a few things with that. When you harvest it and put it in the bin, we will send out a probing service to probe the bin. They'll collect that sample, they'll put seals on the bin, they'll list the bin number, the seal number on the bin, measure approximate bushels. They'll get that sample to us, we'll break it down. we'll send a part of that sample to the state grain lab and get a grade on it. The rest of it we'll send on to the food chain ID lab for an official GMO test on. That's not something we can do. We've got a roamer machine at the plant. We can test load by load, but this PCR test supersedes anything that we can do. So with the program, we pay for the bin probe service to come out to the farm, collect the sample from each bin, and then we pass on the cost for the PCR test to the grower. It's not something you have to pay up front. We'll cover that, we'll hold on to it, and then upon delivery, we can deduct that cost from the settlement. It's about $650 a bin. If they're smaller bins, like 2,000 bushel bins, we'll combine those so you don't have 650 per bin. Like to keep them around 5,000-6,000 a test, 5,000-6,000 bushel per test, just to maximize and keep the cost down per bushel. So when the benefit of doing that is kind of like an insurance. We can test it load by load when it comes in, but in the past with some of the varieties, there have been loads that have tested hot, other ones that didn't, and so then you'll get 2 loads that came in and they were good. Third or fourth one comes in, it tested hot for GMO, got rejected. With the PCR test, we avoid that. That test blankets the contents of the bin, so you don't have to worry about a load passing and then getting rejected and all that. So long as you keep it nice, cool, sweet, in good condition, then that PCR test will cover the contents of the bin, and you don't have to worry about any rejections due to a load testing hot. If the PCR test would happen to come back over that 0.9 threshold, then per the contract, Columbia Grain would have last right of refusal on purchasing that seed as GMO canola. Some agronomic recommendations, requirements. I would say the top one, no canola, GMO canola grown on the field for at least the last 3 years. That's a pretty hard requirement. You guys know your fields better than we do. So, I mean, if you've had GMO canola that you've grown on that particular field within the last 3 or 5 years, and you're going out harvesting or working, spraying, whatever, and you're not seeing any volunteer canola, then you're probably good. But if you went out harvested last year and you're like, there's still volunteer canola growing up here, probably not going to be the best field to put it on. If you're going to do the spring non-GMO canola, we want you to have the best experience and succeed. And by putting that into a field that's got volunteer GMO canola where it's going to get contaminated right off the bat and get rejected, then it's not going to be a good experience for you. And, we're not going to get that production to crush at the plant. So I'd say that's probably a pretty hard requirement. But like I said, you guys know your fields better than we do. So if you think it's clean, you're good to go, and you want to do it, then, things will probably work out well. The other one is a 2-mile buffer zone from any other GMO canola fields. That one I'd say is a recommendation, not necessarily a requirement. You can talk to your neighbors, you can do whatever, get the idea from your neighbor. They're not putting anything in. We had that happen last year. We had a guy out on the Fairfield bench, talked to his neighbors, like, nope, not doing anything. Come seeding time, a mile down the road, there's a field of GMO canola. So everything worked out. We didn't have any cross-pollination contamination. It's not like we're going to say, your neighbor planted that a mile down the road, we're canceling the contract. We won't do that. It's just with the field being that close, you might have a higher possibility of some cross-pollination contamination. And like I said, we want it to be a good experience for you. We want the production. We don't want to see any issues with your production testing over that 0.9 threshold. But once you harvest it, you bin it, we probe it, send it in. More than likely, we'll probably be fine. It'll come back, but it's just something to keep in mind. Talk to your neighbors, see what they're going to do. But end of the day, when they finally pull the trigger, may or may not. So that's why I say that's more a recommendation than a requirement. The winter non-GMO canola. So like I mentioned earlier, we kind of did a pilot program this last fall. We did about 7,500 acres, worked with Mick there at Cropland Winfield. I'm not going to go much into the details on the varieties. Mick's presenting later. He can go into those, and if you guys have any questions, he's going to be better suited to answer those than I am. But we did kind of the same thing. We rolled out the program. We contracted it I think was around $12 a bushel, even maybe $12.50 at the time before the market went down. I think we did the first 30 bushel an acre on the winter non-GMO canola. Hopefully, as we get into this fall, we're looking, my goal anyway, is to try and double those acres. So hopefully we'll get closer to maybe 12 to 15,000 acres instead of 75 like we did this last year. I think it's something that's got real good potential in our area, and we'd like to see that grow. You know, typically we see better yields on the winter canola than we do in the spring. It helps break up your seeding between winter and spring. The winter canola tends to, I would say, start growing and break dormancy. You're probably seeing it starting to bloom about the time that your spring canola is starting to poke out of the ground. So you're able to take advantage of, this year might be a little different, but typically able to take advantage of some of that early spring moisture and get the crop up and blooming 3-4 weeks ahead of that July heat coming on, where typically with your spring canola, you know, it's trying to start blooming right as we're getting into that July heat. So I'd say those are a lot of the pros. The cons are, it's typically seeding time is when you guys are out harvesting in the field. So to try and break away from the combine, hop on the tractor and go out and seed some winter canola, you know, you're weighing your options, trying to figure out what you want to do. The other thing is, you know, I would say typically works best if we've got some late season moisture like we did this last year. So you're not trying to pull your drills through hard, compact soil, tear things up, and it's nice to have a little bit of moisture to seed that canola into a nice soft seed bed. The other con, and Mick might have a little more on it than I do. RMA still doesn't have any insurance out on the winter canola. I think they're still trying, but it's something that's taking quite a while to get there as they're trying to put numbers together and you know, build their database and whatnot. So it might be a year, 2, 3 out. I don't know, but to my knowledge, you know, you really don't have any coverage on that until you get into the spring when it breaks dormancy and starts growing, and then you can get the insurance coverage on the winter canola at that point. So you kind of have seeding time till spring where you're kind of open and left uncovered. So that's really all I got. If anyone has any questions, I'm glad to take them now, or you can catch me afterwards. Like I said, I'm going to try and bolt here shortly so I can get back before my kid leaves. But if you don't get a chance to catch me or you think of something afterwards, I've got my contact details up here. Feel free to email, call, text, whatever works best. And we can talk about it, answer any questions, or if you're wanting to contract something, we can get that taken care of too. So anyone have any questions? Okay, well, if not, thanks again, Cody, for inviting me. Thanks you guys for showing up, and good luck this year. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Oh, I guess I can leave this right here.